Netflix released a docu-series on creating an international idol group using the K-pop methods, and you know I just ate that up. I watched it within like 3 days. There's tea, there's drama, there's fashion, but we're going to be talking about the fashion, specifically the crochet pieces, crochet and knitwear. Also, this video is going to have spoilers since I'm talking about people in the final group, so definitely go watch the series if you haven't already. I really like how the girls were styled. It's eclectic but cohesive. I feel like it's a really good representation of our times now because trend cycles are so short and there's so many different aesthetics. It very much reminds me of the type of things I would see on Pinterest boards. There were a few crochet and knitwear pieces that stood out to me, like Manon's top. I also noticed that it's usually Manon that they style in these pieces. I'm not sure why, but maybe that's just the aesthetic they planned for her, especially the Katseye beanies, which is very iconic for the group name. I thought it'd be fun to try to recreate some of these pieces today. I'm not sure where the items are sourced from. I know that the stylist is Humberto Leon. There might be like a crochet artist that they work with. If you know of the crochet artist that they work with, please comment that down below so I can put that in our description. Yesterday, I picked out the yarns I'm going to be using. This is just stuff that I already had in my stash, and I also have some sketches. This top, I'm using some off-white wool. And then the Katseye beanie, I have some gray acrylic that I'm thinking of brushing out. And then for the arm warmers, I'm not even sure if this will be enough, but I have some tan wool. So I've got Megan's arm warmers, and these two are worn by Manon. And this is just like a kind of distressed crochet top and where like it looks like it's kind of falling apart. I noticed that a lot of the rows are going in different directions, so it'll be very freestyle, I think. I have a 4.5mm crochet hook, so I'm just going to start with a slip knot. So my plan of attack was to create these chain spaces, but I'm finding that the stitches are way too uniform and the material is supposed to be a lot more drapey, so I'm going to probably scrap this and try again with another yarn. I'm going to use this kind of like gray bamboo yarn instead. It's a little bit thinner. I made a little swatch here. I'm planning to treat this like patchwork and use this tank top as kind of like an outline for where the neckline and strap should go. For the stitch variations, I did some rows where there's only double crochet, some rows where I skipped a stitch and then chained to create those little gaps, and some where I did triple or even quadruple or quintuple crochets just to get like a really long stitch. I think the look is supposed to be kind of organic, so I kept it really random. If you never quadruple crocheted before, it's just you yarn over 3 times. So you have 4 loops on your hook, and then you insert your hook, pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the next 2, yarn over and pull through the other 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. So you have like 4 of those. So that's why it's called quadruple crochet. Once I had the 3 main pieces to create the front, I used these tail ends to slip stitch the sides together. Okay, so I just crocheted across here and then connected here. I think I'm going to crochet a chain along this way. I actually find the style of crochet quite challenging. I'm more used to working in straight rows and calculating the number of stitches, but I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I feel like this is a good exercise to get me out of my comfort zone. I made a really long chain here, and that's going to be the first strap. So I'm going to attach it here and then work my way down here. I think I'll do slip stitches and then half double crochets here and then slip stitches here again, and then chain another long chain for the strap. Now the top is coming together. Since I have the back pieces connected to the front and the straps, I put it onto my dress form so I can do the final touches. To create that zigzagging effect on the open areas, I just took some of the tail ends I would have woven in anyway and a yarn needle and sewed some very loose loops. On the other side, the opening was too big, so I took my larger crochet hook to get some of those looser stitches and chain spaces and worked around the opening, kind of like a spider web. From there, I took my tail end and sewed more of those loose loops with the yarn needle. For the back, I looped it through some of the stitches and left it as a tie-off just because I wasn't ready to commit to the strap length, but I think it works with the look of the top. And as a last step, I trimmed and weaved in some of the ends. Most of the long ones I left so it would give that organic look. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I like how there's a lot of different levels of detail, which makes me feel like I'm looking at art rather than a top. This style of crochet was really hard for me since I'm used to planning stitches and straight and uniform rows, so I feel like I had to be a lot more observant than what I was before. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but I wanted it to be inspired by rather than an exact copy. I think I would wear this out as a statement top. The vibe is kind of dystopian since there are exposed threads. And on to the next project, which are Megan's armorers. Okay, I don't think they exclusively style her in these, but when I saw them, I thought that could totally be done on a Sentro, so I wanted to give it a try. If you've never used a Sentro before, it's basically an entry-level knitting machine that lets you knit tubes and panels with medium weight yarn. I actually have a video tutorial and an Etsy pattern on how to make this cardigan on one. I have this wool that I have left over from another project. So I'm actually not sure if this skein is going to be enough, so I'm only going to cast on for 36 hooks instead of the full 48. But first I'm going to start with waste yarn. Waste yarn is kind of like scratch paper, so you probably want to use something that you don't mind cutting up. I cast on 37 hooks by weaving one in front and one behind, and then placed the yarn into the tight tension position in the yarn guide. I knit around 10 rows with my waste yarn and then swapped to my working yarn. I always leave a long tail end with my working yarn, around 6 feet, because I use this to finish and sew in my ends so that there are less to sew in later. But if you don't, that's fine, you can always tie in another piece. Then I knit 60 rows with my working yarn. And since I'm going to create ribbing, I cut a length of waste yarn to just hold these top stitches. So I picked them up with a yarn needle. So here is the panel fresh off the Sentro. I'm now going to create ribbing. It will be 2 knit, 1 purl, just because it's a little less work, and I'm pretty sure that's what it looks like in the picture. And then afterwards, I'm going to mattress stitch the sides together and then leave a hole for the thumbs, so it'll be like a sleeve. And then I'm gonna see how it stays on the arm. If it doesn't stay well, I might put some elastic on the top cuff. So as usual, I'm going to start by securing the bottom end. So to do that, I take the long tail and my crochet hook, and with very loose tension, I slip stitch through each of those loops being held by the waste yarn. After that, I can move to the top side to rework the panel into ribbing. Then I cycled between slip stitching 2 and creating a purl row in the 3rd stitch. And I repeated that all the way across. I made a video on this for my ribbed Sentro sweater, but let me know if you guys want another more focused tutorial on it. Okay, so at the end, I'm just going to chain 1 and pull through. And then I can remove the waste yarn. And I can do the same for this side. For this side, all you need to do is find the start of the first row and then pull that through. And then you have your waist yarn that's free. After that, I mattress stitched both sides using those long tail ends, and then I left about a 1.5 inch gap for the thumb hole. Okay, and that armor is done. All you need to do is make another one. These turned out better than I imagined. Since the ribbing makes the tube stretchy, I found it didn't need any elastic to keep it on my arm. Personally, I'm not sure if it really suits my style though, because I normally would wear long sleeves rather than a short sleeve top and arm warmers, but I think it's never too late to explore different styles. Still, I think these turned out great, and I had just barely enough to finish a second one. For this next project, I'm going to be making this cat ear beanie worn by Manon. For the cat ear beanie, I wasn't sure if I was going to do crochet or knit ribbing, so I made a swatch of both. And I also brushed it out because I noticed it's like more of kind of like a mohair texture. It's very frayed and it makes the stitches look a lot softer, which I actually really like the effect of. I'm just using acrylic because that's what I had on hand, but I think it matches the color pretty well. I usually stand when I do this. So the process for this on the machine was pretty similar to the arm warmers, but this time I'm working in a tube and I knit 80 rows. I also cast on and cast off the same since I wanted to rework it and match the knit and purl pattern in the photo, except this one is knit 1, purl 1. And I'm going to start creating the ribbing. This is going to be much longer because we're going to pretty much fold it inside itself, so it's going to be half the size. After reworking the tube into ribbing, I released the cast on side. Then I sewed the two sides closed and folded it in on itself. And this was the fun part, brushing it out. I'm actually just using a bristle hairbrush and you can really tell the difference at the end. I really like how this softens the look of the stitches. Sometimes I find something that is newly made off of the Sentro, the stitches are very hard and defined, so I like this effect a lot and I'm glad that this project pushed me to try it. That is all the Katseye inspired projects. If you have any video or tutorial requests for the future, drop them in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. My tension guide broke. Good thing I have a replacement that I bought off Amazon. Brand new!